So for the first time since the Singapore Sevens in 2019, the Samoans have got themselves a victory over New Zealand. And as you can see by the score, not just a narrow margin, 24 points to nil, Samoa were victorious over the Kiwis. It was a complete performance from Samoa, a close first half, but they were able to score right at the end of it, and then in the second half, they just absolutely poured on that pressure. We saw some silky skills along the way as well, so in this post-match review, we will be breaking down what we just saw for the Hong Kong Sevens. First of all, try scorers for the Samoans. Malani Matavao, one of the co-captains, scored right at the end of the first half. New Zealand ended up with 2 yellow cards throughout this fixture, which did really cost them. As having a man advantage for Samoa for 4 minutes of this contest was certainly something that they hugely appreciated. Looking through at the second half, try scorers, Va'apilo Maliko scoring in the 9th minute, Paul Scanlon in the 13th, and then in the 15th, it was Steve Onisai scoring right at the end of the game. That was with the chip and chase that he perfected and was able to get another try for Samoa. Now, the thing with this game was New Zealand really never looked like they had a chance in this matchup, maybe in the first few minutes, but other than that, Samoa just seemed to have that extra gear. New Zealand were trying their absolute best to get back into the contest, but little handling errors, penalties in the breakdown just stopped any momentum from being able to be built. But Samoa, it was an impressive one. The next game's going to be up against Australia, 7 p.m. on Saturday night, and that is a game that they certainly want to win as well. In such a tough group with Samoa, New Zealand, Australia, and Hong Kong, you want to make sure you're winning every game possible. And what they did in this game was put New Zealand in a real deficit for their points. So New Zealand are going to have to go harder than ever in their next 2 games up against Hong Kong and the Aussies. Try and get themselves 2 big wins, the points differential up, and then maybe they can make their way through to the quarterfinals. But Samoa, dream start to the competition. Like I mentioned, they will be very impressed with what they were able to do out there on the field. The whole side were getting involved, which was absolutely brilliant to see. Brian Lima, the coach, he will be happy, but he knows that the task is not done yet. They still have their next 2 games, the big one being up against Australia, where Samoa will be wanting to get themselves the victory. I should mention that the yellow cards for New Zealand, one of which was for Moses Leo, and that was for a shoulder charge on one of the Samoan players. Because he was ducking, that is why it was only considered as a yellow rather than a red. And then the other one was for a late shot from Leroy Carter after the try had been scored by Paul Scanlon, so the referee gave him the yellow card there. So New Zealand's discipline, something that they'll have to look at in their upcoming game up against Hong Kong, and then the game after up against Australia. Then for Samoa, if there was anything to work on in this contest, actually quite a hard one to think of something. They were applying good pressure. They were making their one-on-one tackles. I guess if I had to say anything, would just be to not be too confident heading into that next game up against Australia. They've got the potential to win it, but they need to make sure they still do the basics right when they're out there on the field. Once they win that game, they can certainly throw everything into that game up against Hong Kong, a whole heap of random offloads, little chips and chases and whatnot. But up against Australia, probably still going to have to play a relatively structured game, which is something at least Samoa could do pretty well. But nonetheless, that is going to be the end of this post-match review. Just a very short one. New Zealand, for their next game, they're going to have to try and fire back if they want any chance of making it out of the group stage. Samoa, they just keep doing what they're doing, they will be qualifying as number 1 in the pool. But thank you all very much for tuning in. Do let me know what you thought of that performance from the Samoans in the comments down below, and how you think they will go in their next match up against Australia. But thank you all very much for tuning in, and I will see you all for the next one.